Hi guys, it's Eliot from Eliot's Excel Exercises. Welcome. If you're new here, you're about to learn some good stuff. If you've watched this a few times already or seen my other videos, welcome back. Glad to have you here. Today we're looking at the sum function. As you can see on my screen here, we have a data set here in the green. It has the headers. You have an account, date entered, check number, and the amount of the check. We have two empty columns next to that. One's for coverage paid and one's for balance. Down at the bottom we have a totals section. As you see, everything here is blank because that's what we're learning today. Over on the right, starting in column I, you'll see a notes section. There's two ways to do sum, at least two easy ways. First one is typing in a simple equals sum and surrounding whatever you want to sum in the parentheses. Or you can hit the Autosum button, which you'll find here in the home. Over on the right, you'll see an Autosum. If you hover over it, you can see that it says sum or all equals. Down in my notes, you'll see a shortcut key section and it says all equals. You can reference this later. So what exactly does sum do? Well, it adds all numbers together in the range selected. Notice I said adds and not subtracts. The Autosum is a pretty intelligent way of Excel. Excel's trying to see what to sum. Essentially, it's putting a good guess in. It does a pretty good job most of the time. Unless you're putting your formula in the middle of a whole bunch of different data sets and everything like that, it's not going to know what to do. But a nice streamlined data set like this one here, it should get the job done. Now let's start with the first one. So as you see, you have the amount on E, you have a coverage paid on F, and you have a balance on G. Coverage paid, if you notice, is within parentheses. And what this means in the accounting world is a negative number. Of course, your coverage paid is you're minusing the amount from the check, and then your balance will eventually reach zero. So let's use that logic to use the sum function. Now we're going to start off by hitting the equals key, and that tells Excel that you're about to write a formula or a function. I'll use those words interchangeably from now on. And you can type in sum. If you just type in sum and do nothing else, you'll see a little list comes up with a lot of words and a lot of different functions that have the SUM in it. We'll go over these in the future. For now, we would just want the top one. You can do two things. Double click the first one and it'll kind of create the function for you, and it'll put the first parenthesis in for you. That's very easy. Second thing you can do is, if you already know what it is and where to go, you can just hit the tab key and it does the same thing. So here you'll see a little pop-up and it says number 1, comma, number 2, etc. Notice how the number 2 is in brackets. This means it's an option. You don't have to do it. But the number 1 is not, so you have to put one. The best thing about the sum is that you can put way more than one number, of course. So let's just take the sum of the first amount and the sum, or I'm sorry, sum it with the coverage paid. You can finish that off with a closed parenthesis and hit enter. As you see here, the balance is the exact same amount as the amount because there is no negative number in coverage paid. So let's test this out. Let's say I paid $400,000. I hit enter. Now our balance reflects correctly, doesn't it? We have the $407,654.02. Adding a negative coverage paid number of $400,000, and you have the balance of $7,654.02. And of course, you can overwrite this with the actual amount, and you'll see that the balance is 0. The reason why it has the dash instead of the 0 is because the formatting is accounting. We'll go over that in a minute if you have any questions about that. And if you don't, let's move on. Up here in the formula bar, you could see the function that you just wrote. Another thing you can do is hit F2. And it'll basically put the function back onto the cell, ready for editing. You can hit escape on that to get out of it, or you can hit enter to recalculate. Tab does the same thing. So now that we know that, we can use the sum horizontally. We can also use the sum vertically. So let's go down here on the bottom of our amount column on the total section. We can do the same thing. We can do equal sum, hit the tab button, and then what we can do is we could take our mouse and click and drag this whole section all the way down to here. You don't want the word amount in it, and you certainly don't want the cell that you're putting your formula into. You want everything in between. So right here you'll notice you have an E4 colon E24. And you have your area selected in blue with the dancing ants. Those are pretty great. Here's another cool tip. You don't have to close the parentheses. Excel knows to do that for you. So you can just hit enter. And there's our total. You can actually double check this by taking your cursor and selecting it yourself. And if you notice down here at the bottom right, you'll see a sum section on the bottom of Excel. And we can double check, and yes, it's the same number. So we know that our function is working. There's nothing missing or tricky about it. It's great. So another thing we can do is filling. So what we want to do is take this balance, a little tiny green square in the very bottom right hand corner of the cell. It'll make your cursor into this dark black cross. That's how we know it's time to take it and drag it down. So what you want to do is click it, hold it, and drag it down. You'll see this dark, thick green border around the cells that you want. And again, you'll stop down here. And when you can let go, what it does is it takes your formula. Watch the formula bar up here. What it does is it takes your formula and it applies it to each one. Notice how the cells are changing, 15, 16, 17, 18. This is very intelligent, and it knows to move them down as you move the formula down. That way it creates a clean workflow for all of us. You don't want to do that with the coverage paid, because you shouldn't have a formula for coverage paid. You should just be able to type freely in here, like this. Next thing I want to show you is the Autosum. We didn't go over that one yet. So the Autosum is very important, and it's very quick. So I'm going to delete this amount total to show you the Autosum. And again, there's two ways to do it. You have the button up here, so you can go ahead and click this. And with the click of the button, you have a sum. You have the same exact range I had before. It's pretty great how intelligent this is. Go ahead and just press enter or tab. And there it is. The next thing you can do is hit Alt equals on your keyboard. So go ahead and hit Alt equals. And there it is again. This time, of course, I did it underneath the balance section. I hit equal and I hit enter on that. Notice how in the coverage paid section we have a lot of blanks, and then one here, and then a lot of blanks, and then one. Your Autosum's not going to work too great on that. It doesn't know to look above it. So here, we're forced to write the formula by hand, which is no problem. I always prefer to write the formulas by hand because it gets you into the muscle memory to do it fast and efficiently. So go ahead and hit sum. Take your mouse, drag it down. You can hit tab on that. And again, you have your total amount, you have your total coverage paid, and you have your balance. So the balance should work basically like a cross. Your balance should not only equal what's all above it, it should equal the two next to it as well. And like I said earlier, you can confirm that by going down here. You can see the sum of $2,788,145.69. That's what we have here, and that's what we have here. So we balance. All while we were learning the sum function. Pretty fantastic. You can play around with this, see how it works. And you can sum anything you want, just to play around. You can hit equal sum. Let's just do this whole thing, right? And what this does, it gives us the balance, doesn't it? Pretty easy, and it's pretty straightforward. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe for the next one. Thank you very much.